Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Prognard. I am your host, Jacob Williams. I wanted to go ahead and do a second channel update to kind of give everyone an idea of what's in store for the future for the Prognard. But before I do, I'm going to go ahead and light up my cigar. This is a acid blondie. Uh, I'm filming on location on my back porch, just like my last video. And just to remind you guys that, there might be some cars coming by, so hopefully that won't distract too much from the video. The back porch is pretty much the only place I can record that will cut down on as much noise as possible and still allow me to enjoy my cigar. See a gnat flying around, but we'll deal with that. Alright, so let's talk about the future of the channel. And before I do that, let me grab a swig of my Mexi Coke. This is pretty much my main drink when I'm gaming. So let me start this channel update off with a little story. So as I mentioned in my last update, that I have a podcast that's based on Marvel's The Punisher, aka Frank Castle, which you can check out at PunisherBodyCount.com if anyone's interested, iTunes and Stitcher as well. So I've been doing that podcast for about going on our 6th year of doing that. We're almost 100 episodes in. And when I first started that show with my friend Dane, I thought to myself, okay, I want to do a comic book podcast, but I can't really do a generic comic book podcast because tons of people in that field are already doing general comic book podcasts, from The Nerdist, 11 O'Clock Comics. I think Kevin Smith has a generic comic books podcast. So we just didn't think that was possible to really break into that market. And then what we decided, my friend and I, was that we both had a huge passion for The Punisher, and that no one was doing a Punisher podcast. And in retrospect, this had, one major benefit and one huge drawback. The benefit was that we had a built-in audience because there actually was a need, or a desire, I should say, from fandom to have a podcast specifically dedicated to the Punisher. So we had a built-in audience. The bad part was that listenership eventually, plateaued out, okay? Because, you think about there's only X amount of Punisher fans, and then only a small percentage of those are going to actively listen to podcasts. So, that's kind of our upper ceiling on listenership. Whereas a generic a generic comic books podcast, has a much higher listenership because there's, tons of people who read comics, and then, you're multiplying that small percentage, by much larger numbers. So, and I think you have more room to grow as different comic book movies, come out. That top line number gets a lot bigger. So why did I start off with that story? Well, as I was thinking about continuing this channel, because as I explained in my first update, I really only started this channel to do 4 videos on Cuba Libre, and I've already done them. But, we got a few subscribers, or I got a few subscribers, and, some of them were encouraging me, especially Stuka Joe. So I want to give a shout out to Stuka Joe. I'm a big fan of his. Definitely check out his channel. He's one of the reasons why I really got into the States of Siege game, watching his playthroughs of Soviet Dawn and what's the other one? Israeli War or Israeli Independence? I forget which one. So sorry if I butchered that. But some of the subscribers were encouraging me to just do the videos, that I want to do and have fun with it. And I did have a lot of fun shooting those 4 videos, and I've dropped a couple of videos since then that I enjoy doing. So I started thinking about what are the videos that I want to make? What are the videos that I want to have fun doing? And at the same time will provide you, the viewer, the most entertainment for your time investment. So I just started thinking about these things, and I actually came up with a list of talking points here. Well, they're right here, that I kind of want to go over, so we can kind of get an idea of what I want to do with the channel and what you can expect in the future. As I was writing this, some annoying horns there, sorry about that. So as I was writing this out, the thing that kept popping to mind was actually, what is the Prognard not about? Okay, my mind just kept going to, what do I not want to do? So I wrote a list of things down here. First and foremost, the Prognard is not about the cult of the new. The cult of the new is a term in general board gaming that the newest game is always the best game, and you should always just be talking about new. We're not doing that here at the Prognard, okay? Mostly because, well, there's several reasons. First and foremost, people like Tom Vassell at the Dice Tower are already doing this in a much better way than I can. He has a whole crew that are paid to do this, and they can just do a better job, and it's just a market I can't compete in, so I don't even want to waste my time trying. Okay, so that's one reason. The second reason is I just don't have the financial ability to buy new games as soon as they hit, and I'm definitely way too small time to have publishers throwing free copies at me. So it's just not going to happen. I mean, I don't want to, because the market is already overserved, and B, I just don't have the ability to do that. So this channel is not about rushed unboxings, rushed reviews, and it's not about promoting new games over the old ones just because they're new. All right, so this channel is not about Cult of the New. Now, this isn't to say that I will never, quote unquote, review a game. I'm pretty sure at some point on this channel I will review a game. But when I do a review of a game, I want it to be one that no one is doing reviews about, okay? Which that's going to be difficult, especially for Euro games and stuff like that, because Dice Tower or someone else is already going to be reviewing them. Even war games are going to be tough, because you have drive-through games and Marco Wargamer doing videos on that as well. So we might do some reviews here, but I don't know. Most likely not. All right. Another thing that the Prognard is not about is agreeing with internet groupthink. Now, what does that mean? I think the best thing to illustrate this is with an example. All right. Most of the viewers will be familiar with Liberty or Death, which is the 5th volume in the GMT coin series. This is a game that is fairly popular on the internet and on BGG and among wargamers and stuff. To be honest, at this point in time, always subject to change, I'm just not a fan of that game. I think that it has a serious imbalance with the French faction, and the couple of times I've played it, it just hasn't been fun. Now, is this because I don't know the strategy, or is it because it's a design flaw? I don't know. There's a lot of drama on Board Game Geek, and I don't really want to get into it here because the Prognard is definitely not about burning bridges. It's just a game that I don't like. So I'm going to be honest and not fall into the internet groupthink that, oh, this is such a great game and it's a really pushing the coin system boundaries, because I just don't think that. All right. Now, that's not to say that I wish Harold Buchanan or GMT ill will because of that. You know, some games land for certain people and they don't for others. And this is just a case where it didn't land for me. Okay. But I'm going to be upfront and honest and not just go along with what the internet says about it. But at the same time, the Prognard is not about unnecessarily trolling. Okay. I'm not going to come here and bash creators or bash games because negativity seems to get, you know, higher views on the internet. And I didn't write this down, but I should put this on here. While I do want viewership, the Prognard is not about ratings at all cost. I have no delusions of ever becoming a YouTube star. It's not what I want to do. I want this to just be something I do because I can't game with my friends for whatever reason, or I feel I have something really important to say about game X, or Y, or Z. All right, but we're not about trolling or being negative just because that's what gets ratings. The Prognard is not about one genre of games. I statistically, the vast majority of my videos have been about war games. I mean, the few videos I do have up at this point, at this point in time. Let's see, I've got 6 videos on war games, 1 on an Amerithrash type game, and 1 Euro game is how the it's broken down roughly right now. But that's not to say that the Prognard is all about war games. Let that loud truck go by. I know this is a terrible location to film at, but it is what it is. Okay, so the Prognard's not about war games, it's not about Amerithrash style games, and it's not strictly about Euros. I just play the games that I like. I like a wide variety of games, and that's going to be represented in my videos. But in the areas that I do cover games with historical or potentially controversial themes, the Prognard is not political or spin the history one way or the other. Let me give some examples of that. If I talk about, or let's take the Cuba Libre videos that I did, I'm not putting any spin on the things that the Castro regime did. I'm not going to get into the politics of whether Batista should have stayed or left. I'm not going to advocate a position on America's relationship with Cuba. It's just all about the game. All right. And then this could extend to Euros as well. And the case I'm thinking off the top of my head is the game Five Tribes. Everyone made a stink that one of the factions in that were slaves. You know, slavery is something that historically happened. I mean, it should go without saying that slavery is bad. If I cover a game with slavery in the theme, it's not because I advocate slavery. I'm just matter of fact saying that this game has slavery in it, okay? So the Prognard does not take political stances and doesn't put a historical spin. It's all about the games. So this is a brief list that's not all inclusive of what the Prognard is not about. And this helped guide my thinking into what the Prognard is about. So let me flip my page here, take another drink. Let's talk about what the Prognard is about. I got a fire truck going by. Let me give that a second to clear out. In wintertime, these channel updates will be better because I'll probably have to film them inside. Alright, so what is the Prognard about? I would say the main thing that I want to be about with this channel is what I'm calling game discussions. Okay, now what do I mean by a game discussion? I don't know that I can define it, but I can give you a great example. Have you ever played a game with your buddies, and then when you're done, you guys just have like an hour-long conversation about the game mechanics, what could have happened, what you should have done, armchair generaling / Monday morning quarterbacking, all these things. Like, that's what I want the channel to be about. First and foremost is game discussions. Okay, sometimes discussions can seem like a review, but I think that there is a big difference. Okay, so in theory, if I cover game X, you would go to Dice Tower or Drive Through Games or Marco Wargamer to see a review, and then you would come to my video to see a discussion about it. And even though there would be some overlap, I would like to think that the majority of the content is different from video to video on the same game. The channel will also focus heavily on game strategy and game analysis. Okay, and this will include a lot of math from time to time. Let me go into another story. Before I went to college, I was in a discussion with a friend of mine about Dungeons and Dragons, and we were talking about weapons. And he really liked the greatsword. That was his favorite weapon, because he liked that the 2d6 would never roll a 1, and that it was consistent, that it was always hitting around 6, 7, or 8 damage. I liked the great axe because even though you could roll a 1, you saw 12s a lot more often, and I thought that outweighed rolling a 1. Now, this was before I went to college, and in college I studied math with a focus in actuarial science. And we didn't know the math, but somehow he convinced me that the probability of rolling a 12 with the great sword was the same as the 12 on the great axe, so that it really didn't matter. And obviously, since taking statistics course, I know that the real argument is that the great sword has a higher mean and a lower variance, whereas the great axe has a lot more variance, and you actually are likely to see more 12s on the 12-sided dice, but whatever. So even from that young of an age, doing statistical analysis on games has always been something that I've been very interested in. So you're going to see a lot of that on this channel. As a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to do a strategy video on Iki, a game of Edo Artisans, and I'm going to show some math formulas and some mathematical and economic concepts. So things that you're not really going to find in most other videos. So that's one thing that the Prognard is going to be about. And this next point kind of dovetails to a point that I made on what the Prognard is not about. So one thing the Prognard is about honesty. If I give an opinion on the game, it's going to be an honest opinion, good, bad, or indifferent, okay? I'm not going to purposely troll, but if I think a game is bad, I'm going to say so. Or if I'm playing a game that's considered unpopular and I really like it, I'm going to give it a good discussion points, or give it high marks, or I guess a good review, for lack of a better word. But it's all going to be honest, all right? I'm going to discuss games that very few people are talking about, and I'm going to give a rundown of some videos that I kind of have in my head. They're all going to be games that maybe some people don't like, but I do. But it's going to be stuff that people just aren't talking about, okay? Because I feel that that's where the board game community is being underserved, and I want to serve that niche. Again, because it's not about the viewers, it's about making videos that I like and that I'm proud of. All right? And then, finally, and again, this isn't an all-inclusive list either. I may talk about popular games, but I'm hoping to talk about them in a new way. okay, which may be really difficult for a lot of games that have been out forever and are super popular. But you know what? It's making videos that I enjoy, so I will be doing some of that. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of about the future of the channel. For the foreseeable future, I plan on continuing to make videos. I'm not sure about the frequency. Here lately, I've been putting out a video every couple of days. I anticipate that slowing down, but you never know. We'll see what happens. But we're going to go from there, and hopefully you'll enjoy the videos I make, and if not, I don't know, don't watch them. And I guess if viewership ever gets low enough, I'll stop making them. As I promised, I want to give a few video ideas, or some ideas that I have for upcoming videos. And if you guys or gals, I'll probably say guys, please don't take it like I don't think any girl watches the channel, because they might. I think I actually already have a woman subscriber, which is great. I think more women should be in the hobby. Oh, what was I saying? All right, so I might generically say you guys. So here's some ideas of videos that I have as ideas. I haven't filmed any of these, but I may. But you guys are always welcome to go on to Board Game Geek, where my username is Chromium Age Collector, all one word. And you're welcome to browse through my games, and if you see a game in my collection that you really want to see a discussion on or something, you know, send me an email, theprognard@gmail.com, and I'll, you know, see what I can do about getting it discussed. But or if you just have something you want me to discuss, and I don't know, I have access to more games than I own because I have a couple of friends who just buy tons of games. But anyway, here are some ideas that I have, you know, beyond list or viewer suggestions. I want to do a first look video at a game called Middle East Combat. This was actually an unofficial expansion to Axis and Allies from the 90s. I've taken the game and I've upgraded it to be compatible with the global 1942 core rule set, and I have made the components available for free on Board Game Geek. It is a let that vehicle go by. It is a print and play kind of deal, but I think it's something worth taking a look at, and probably no one's talked about it since the 90s. So I've got that. To go along with my Iki rules explanation video, I'm going to do a game analysis, and this will have some heavy math in it. There's a C3I variant for Cuba Libre that I haven't tried out yet, but I think would be great to complement my 4 games. And then speaking of popular games with a new twist, one of my favorite games of all times is Settlers of Catan, and I want to kind of do a strategy guide or tips and tricks to that. Hopefully that's something that no one's really done a video on, and if not, I'm definitely doing a video on that. There's a game I really like called Corto, you know, from the Corto Maltese graphic novel series. I think this is a great game that never made a splash that should have, in my opinion. So I'll probably do a discussion on that. There's always a possibility for doing more coin strategy videos. I'd kind of like to do a Star Wars Rebellion strategy guide, though that's pretty hot. I think a lot of people are doing that, so maybe not. And then I want to do a first look for Twilight of Shogun, which was a Japanese game that's kind of using a lot of the core mechanics as Twilight Struggle. I think it'd be cool to do a video on that, and definitely no one's discussing that. So there you go. That's kind of a roadmap for where I'm going with the channel. If you have any questions, you know, definitely send them to me, theprognard@gmail.com. You know, leave it as a comment on this video. Send me a private message on Board Game Geek. I mean, there's lots of ways to get a hold of me. So I guess with that, thanks for watching, and thanks for all the support, from my subscribers. And again, a special thanks to Stuka Joe. I was really beside myself when he gave me some encouragement. So with that, I'm Jacob Williams. Have a good one.